Hello and welcome to another edition of Loving Literature with Miss Chowdhury. Now it has been a really long time since I last did my videos, and I did go through a little bit of a format change and now I'm back to the original, so bear with me. It's been a crazy few weeks trying to homeschool, juggling the kids, and then having all the different government announcements and opening back up again. Everything has sort of manifested in a bit of craziness in my household. Everything is now going back to normal, it's settling back down again. So I've decided to go back to making some videos and sharing with you guys what I have been reading, especially over the lockdown period. I have been doing a little bit of writing of my own as well, which I will mention in the future a little bit more, especially with a couple of bits coming out and being published. So I will come back to those later on. Now, one of the first things I read when lockdown struck was actually this book called Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. I always find her name really hard to pronounce. I don't know what's wrong with me. And this book is this novel is by Gail Honeyman. When I first picked this up, I'm not going to lie, I did actually find the first little bit of it quite hard, and I found it really difficult to understand Eleanor's tone. But the more and more I read, the more and more I was falling in love with this character and her life. And there were so many moments where I felt a huge sense of sympathy towards her. And in many ways, I was thinking to myself, if I hadn't had children and got married, then there's a high possibility I could have turned out like her. So reading this, I could certainly empathise in bits as well. It isn't just serious, but there are many serious bits in it. But I think, again, persevere if you pick this up and you think, oh, I don't like it at first, because that sort of unfolds as the novel continues. For me, I just found there were so many funny bits, and that's what I'm going to concentrate on my reading today. There were so many comical bits, and I was reading and thinking, oh gosh, please don't do this, Eleanor. No. But she just went ahead and did it, and it just really cracked me up. There were bits of it actually that reminded me a little bit of Bridget Jones, and I'm not in the storyline because it's completely different, but more in sort of that tone in parts of it. With this, there were several moments as well, and I do have to say as sort of a disclaimer, that were really touching and upsetting. And as I read, I did find bits where I became really teary and really emotional. But again, I think that the issues that Eleanor faces, many people in society do. And it should be something that's being more and more addressed. So again, as I was reading this, I was thinking, yeah, it's definitely one of those novels. I would say it's a modern one, and a lot of my literature that I cover isn't. It's 19th century. But this one, as a modern novel, I would say go pick it up and have a read of it. It has got depth to it, but maybe you won't find it on first reading. Maybe it will take a second reading. Maybe it won't be in the first few pages, but as you delve into it, you will start seeing those relevant modern issues that people face. With Eleanor, she is a character that is isolated, and she's on her own, and is very, very lonely, although she doesn't really realise that. And that for me was really crucial as I was reading it. Because it was at the beginning of lockdown, it just really made me think about all those people that were living alone during this very difficult sort of 12-week period. With things now going back to normality, at that point when I was reading it, I was thinking, wow, gosh, they are brave, courageous people. To live alone and not actually see anybody for that length of time, well done. Well done to them. And they are far more stronger and braver than they realise. Okay, so I'm going to start reading. I'm going to actually read from the beginning a little bit and then a little bit towards the middle. Like I've said, both scenes are funny, and I've chosen that on purpose because I would like to keep actually some of the plot a bit of a mystery, because I'd like you to go out there, read this, and then tell me what you think. So if you've got a copy of it, then feel free to pause me, go get it, and then you can follow along with me. I'm going to read from page 6. I went to the doctor yesterday. It feels like eons ago. I got the young doctor this time, the pale chap with the red hair, which I was pleased about. The younger they are, the more recent their training, and that can only be a good thing. I hate it when I get old, Mr. Wilson. She's about 60 and I can't imagine she knows much about the latest drugs and medical breakthroughs. She can barely work the computer. Now this bit always makes me laugh, because when I go to the doctors I actually wish I get the old ones, because I always think, oh, they're going to have come across everything, won't they, so they'll be able to cure me. But I don't actually ever thought about her feeling, of like Eleanor. So as I was reading it, I was thinking, oh, yes, she's got a relevant point there. The doctor was doing that thing where they talk to you but don't look at you, reading my notes on the screen, hitting the return key with increasing ferocity as he scrolled down. What can I do for you this time, Miss Oliphant? It's back pain, doctor. I told you, I've been in agony. He still didn't look at me. How long have you been experiencing this? He said. A couple of weeks, I told him. He nodded. I think I know what's causing it, I said, but I wanted to get your opinion. He stopped reading, finally looked across at me. What is it that you think is causing your back pain, Miss Oliphant? I think it's my breasts, doctor, I told him. Your breasts? Yes, I said. You see, I've weighed them, and they're almost half a stone. Combined weight, that is, not each. I laughed. He stared at me, not laughing. That's a lot of weight to carry around, isn't it? I asked him. I mean, if I were to strap half a stone of additional flesh to your chest and force you to walk around all day like that, your back would hurt, wouldn't it? He stared at me and cleared his throat. How did you? Kitchen scales, I said, nodding. I just sort of placed one on top. I didn't weigh them both. I made the assumption that they'd be roughly the same weight. Not entirely scientific, I know, but this is hilarious. This bit actually cracked me up. I thought, oh my gosh, what is she doing? I mean, she has got a relevant point there. She's got a male doctor. Really, what would men know about that extra weight? So I was reading that bit and thinking, oh yeah, you've got a valid point. But that scene, I just really made me laugh. I thought, oh my gosh, what is she doing? I'll write your prescription for some more painkillers, Miss Oliphant, he said, taking over me and typing. Strong ones this time, please, I said firmly, and plenty of them. They tried to fob me off before with tiny doses of aspirin. I needed highly effective medication to add to my stockpile. Could I please have a repeat prescription of my eczema medication, please? It does seem to become exasperated at times, stress or excitement. He did not grace this polite request with a response, but simply nodded. Neither of us spoke, as the printer spat out the paperwork which he handed to me. He stared at the screen again and started typing. There was an awkward silence. His social skills were woefully inadequate, especially for people facing a job like this. Goodbye then, doctor, I said. Thank you so very much for your time. My tone went completely over his head. He was still apparently engrossed in his notes. That's the only downside to the younger ones. They have terrible bedside manner. Right, so that's the first bit that I chose to read. I like it because of the humour. I think it also tells you a lot about her as well. I think that she, a little clue into her life is given, especially with the medication that she requires there, and she wants a lot of it. She also thinks that she's able to read people, but I think that pretty much tells you that she's also unable to read people. But it makes us like her. It makes us, sometimes that honesty can be felt right the way throughout the book, and that honesty is refreshing. And it is, that was one of the very much laugh out loud scenes that I read, and was cracking up with the children and thinking, what's mummy laughing at? But it was one of my favourite sort of comical scenes. I'm going to read another scene to you, and I'm going to read from page 127, from 127. Okay, so if you've got a copy again, you can pause me for a moment, go get it, and then listen as I read. Oh no, sorry, I'm going to read from page 126. I'm going to read a little bit beforehand, just to sort of get us into this scene. Have you worked here long? I asked. 2 years, she said to my astonishment. She appeared to be around 14 years of age, and to the best of my knowledge, child labour was still outlawed in this country. And did you always want to be I grappled for the word, manicurist? Nail technician, she corrected me. She was intent on her task and did not look at me while she talked, which I approved of enormously. There is categorically no need for eye contact when the person concerned is wielding sharp implements. I wanted either to work with animals or to be a nail technician, she continued. She had moved on to a hand massage now, more deluxe pampering presumably, although I found it rather pointless and ineffectual, and was quite concerned for potential allergic reactions. Her hands were tiny, almost as small as mine, which were unfortunately abnormally small, like a dinosaur's. I would have preferred a man's hand massage. I would have preferred a man's hand to massage mine. Larger, stronger, firmer, hairier. So yeah, she said, I couldn't decide between animals or nails, so I asked my mum and she said I should go for nail technician. She picked up an emery board and began to shape my nails. It was an awkward process, one that would have definitely been easier to do oneself. Is your mother an economist or qualified carer's advisor? I said. Casey stared at me, because if not, then I'm sure that her advice was necessarily informed by the latest data on earnings, projections and labour market demand. I said, quite concerned for her future prospects. She's a travel agent, Casey said firmly, as if that settled the matter. I let it drop. It was no concern of mine after all, and she seemed happy enough at her work. The thought did strike me as she painted on various coats of various varnishes that she could have perhaps combined the two professions by becoming a dog groomer. However, I elected to keep my counsel on the matter. Sometimes when you tried to help with suggestions, it could lead to misunderstandings, not all of them entirely pleasant. She placed my hand into a small machine, which was, I assumed, a hairdryer for nails, and a few minutes later the deluxe pampering was done. All in all, the experience had been rather underwhelming. She had advised me of the price. It was frankly extortionate. I have a leaflet, I said. She nodded, not even asking to check it, and deducted the requisite 1/3, stating the revised amount, which still left me reeling. I reached for my shopper. She said, "Stop!" in a very alarming fashion. I did. "You smudged them," she said. She leaned forward. "I'll get your purse out for you if you like." I was concerned that this might be some elaborate ruse to part me on even more of my hard-earned cash, so I watched her like a proverbial hawk as she reached inside my bag. Too late, I remembered the unfinished remains of the egg sandwich which lay within. She gagged ostentatiously as she removed my purse. A slight overreaction, I felt. Yes, the odour which had escaped was somewhat sulphurous, but still, no need for a pantomime. I kept my eyes fixed on her fingers. Unpainted, I noticed, as she extracted the required notes and replaced the purse in the shopper very carefully. I stood up ready to take my leave. Her erstwhile companion had returned and cast a glance at my hands, their tips gleaming green. "Nice," she said, her tone and body language implying strongly that she had little interest in the topic. Casey became slightly more animated. "Would you like a loyalty card?" she said. "Have 5 manicures and the 6th one's free." "No, thank you," I said. "I shan't be having a manicure again. I can do the same thing myself at home, better for nothing." The mouth fell open slightly. But with that, I was off, making my way back out into the world, dodging the squirters and the sample pushers on the way past the perfume counters. I longed to be outside in the natural light, the fresh air again. The gilded confines of Beauty Hall were not my preferred habitat, like the chicken that had laid the eggs for my sandwich. I was more of a free-range creature. Okay, so that bit again, you can see her brutal honesty and her foolishness at times. I think she doesn't realise what she's saying. And you get many moments like that. That makes this hilarious. And there's moments where I think, oh, actually, I really wish I had actually said some of those things. There are moments you've gone and got your hair done or your nails done or something done, and you've thought, oh, great, I could have done this at home for cheaper. Or you've gone and ate a meal and you think, God, I made the same one at home for cheaper. So she just says the truth. But again, as you read, you realise why she does these things. And again, it makes her a really sympathetic character. At this, the two clips that I've read, you might think, oh, she's annoying, or, oh, great, you know, is that what she's like? But when you put it into the context of who and what she's gone through, it makes her very appealing. And again, those little inserts of comical scenes amongst actually a very serious novel makes this very entertaining. With this, like I've said, you might read the beginning and you may feel like, oh, I'm not sure, but bear with it. Eleanor has so much to her, and as she grows, I think as a reader, your opinions and your thoughts also grow, and your understanding of people grows. So it is very much worth reading. So if you pick this up and you do read it, then please do let me know what you think. I will be back with this novel again, maybe in a couple of weeks' time, where I read a little bit of the serious parts, because there are certain issues that I would like to pick up on. But before, I'll give people a chance to have a little read so I don't spoil it for everyone. I am going to come back later on this week, and I'm going to go back to Pride and Prejudice. I would like to do a little bit more reading of that and a little bit more discussion on that, because I think there's certainly other characters apart from Mr. Darcy, my literary crush, that I would like to talk about. Right, so hopefully you've enjoyed this edition of Loving Literature with Miss Chowdhury. Hopefully it encourages you to go out and read a little bit more. Reading is a truly wonderful gift, so please make sure that you are going out and you are maintaining that. Take care of yourselves, and I'll be back shortly with another edition of Loving Literature with Miss Chowdhury. Thank you for joining me. Good night.